Mm. Hello, dear one. Mm. Hello, dear one. So, this is a video to address how to work with the inner child from a oneness perspective. We can understand the inner child as a part of the being that we appear to be. This is one way that people speak about the inner child. The way that I would personally think of the inner child is more like a blueprint, more like a set of thoughts accompanied by emotions and habitual patterns created from those thoughts and emotions. What this means is that when something arises that we would attribute to our inner child, the way that I would look at it, understand it from a oneness perspective, is that something is arising within our being, within our conscious awareness, that is connected to what we perceive to be a memory of ourselves, right? A version of ourselves from the apparent past. But when we look at it, what is really happening is we are here in the now. There's only the now, so we are here experiencing, and something is arising that is in some way still present in the now, right? It's arising, so it's present here and now, right? And no matter where we attribute this, if we go, oh, right, this is my inner child, and it's fine to look at it that way. It can be very helpful to look at it that way. But what we may recognize is that something is arising. And no matter what it is, if it's the inner child, if it's the present person that we imagine ourselves to be, if it's our inner teenager, or whatever, either way is fine. It's, we may use labels if we want to use labels, but we don't need to use labels. What we recognize is that this is arising. And how do I relate to this experience? This is the question that we really want to ask ourselves. To begin to work with anything that is arising within our experience, that is coming from this physical energetic body arising into our experience. How do we want to interact with this? How do we want to relate to this that is arising within us? Because really, no matter if it's arising, if it's seemingly arising within, something that we can't see with our eyes, touch with our hands, or, feel with our sensory self, it doesn't really matter. It's still an experience. It is not who we are, right? This cup is not who I am. A thought that is arising is not who I am, right? It's the same thing. It's a lot easier for us to look at a cup and say, this is not me. Look, because it's separate. It's not, like we're not one. Of course, everything is one. Um, but when it comes to our thoughts and our emotions, we it's a lot easier for us to identify with them, right? And make them into what we believe ourselves to be. So if we're having quote unquote negative thoughts, we say, oh, you know, I should be happier. I'm not happy. I'm just, I am no good, because that's what my thoughts are saying. I thought I turned the sound off. So, firstly, what we recognize is that when something is arising, we do not need to identify with um, with these thoughts and these emotions. They are simply arising within our experience. Just like we look at a tree, it's arising in our experience through the sight sensory experience. A thought, emotion is arising. It's arising within the emotional sensory experience and the thought experience. So if something is arising and it's a memory, or it's a feeling, a thought feeling that we are relating to something in the past, a past version of us, that's fine. But we don't need to attribute it to anything, because it doesn't matter. What matters is when it's arising, how am I relating to it? And what we want to do is to allow it to be. So it arises, we meet it with curiosity, with openness. And mine might go, oh, I remember this. This is from this. This experience here means that I'm not good. The mind can say whatever, but you are not the mind. The mind doesn't necessarily speak the truth. The mind is describing, comparing. You are the truth. You are not thought. You are not emotion. Thought and emotion arises within you. And you can allow it to arise. And you can see it for what it is, which is simply thought, simply emotion, sensation. And the beautiful thing is that this is also how you heal, in the sense that you learn how to relate to these thoughts and emotions in a way where it doesn't sway you back and forth and back and forth. Now it's good, now it's bad, now it's good, now it's bad. When you are rooted in self, with a capital S, big self, the no self, the no self, you are not swayed back and forth experience happens and you can be curious about it. So when something arises, we can hold space for it. We can let it arise, can turn towards it and simply let it be. Generally, this tends to provide us with clarity or insight of deeper truths, deeper realities. The reality, the truth of our oneness. When we can allow thought and emotion to arise without getting identified with it, without getting pulled into it, simply allowing it to be, we experience oneness. Oneness shows itself to us. So when the inner child arises, it arises as an experience. The point is not to heal, to fix, to change. Explore the experience of being. Explore the conscious awareness that you are. And it helps to cultivate the heart space, to have a space where you can ground when the emotion or thought pulls you in. The heart is where we get to fortify, feel the oneness. And the knowing of consciousness itself becomes the clarity with which we see. And this creates freedom. This creates love. This creates joy. Blessings.